What's that? Amaranth in a tournament? Yeah, you heard it right. There are actually tournaments for people who have no idea how to micro or use control groups, as well as people who actually can. But today I'm going to be doing a bit of a post-match review of my tournament performance in the community tournament organised by Hermes Prime. I'm going to put links in the description for his Twitch and for some VODs that he did, because he also streamed this match and one of the other matches that I played as well, and so you can see his perspective and stuff like that. So this is going to be a bit more of a post-match performance where I kind of review what I did, what went well, what didn't go well, as well as my sort of later knowledge, my hindsight of things that I know now that I could have done better, or maybe I should have done better. So I was matched up with Tobias Earn, and he's an English main, so I pretty much knew straight off the bat that we were going to be doing 3 Byzantine English games, because in the Platinum category there were only 4 players, so we did a best of 3 for the first set, and then if you won the best of 3 you went into the final for a best of 1. So it was going to be 3 Byzantine versus English matches, and I had a little look at some of his games and I was pretty confident that he was going to be doing the King 2TC, because that seems to be his favourite. So I did my standard opening. I didn't go for the Grove, so normally I would, because it makes the sheep last a little bit longer, but actually against English I'm starting to find that keeping that extra 50 wood is really nice, because it means I can get my production buildings up earlier, which means I can get units out earlier, so if they longbow rush then I can get horses slightly quicker, or maybe if I need a tower or something like that, whereas against maybe slower civs, having the olive grove down early gives you a little bit of oil, but it more saves the sheep, so it doesn't really delay much. With the scouting, this map is Dry Arabia, so I was pretty happy with the first one, because Dry Arabia is probably the most balanced map there is. Very open, you know, standard spawns on resources, not like Lipany where you can get a whole cliff that covers half the map or anything crazy like that. So I started trying to do this scouting path. When I spawn slightly off center like this, I end up just going straight across the middle and round, because most people will go to the center and then peel off either east or west and then do sort of the bottom third or quarter. So I tried to do this because I thought I might get some more sheep. Didn't really work out. I only got 5, so I think he got the lion's share in this one. So if we head over to his base, we can see he's already got more than that, and he's probably going around and seeing the rest. But here, because he's done that standard path, if we go over to his vision, then we can see that he's done that standard down to the center. So he's got these side, but I've already got all the ones on this other side. So actually, it's kind of even, I guess. Now, as to be expected, he went for the Abbey, and if we go back to my vision, because I want to see, so I haven't started scouting him yet, and this is usually quite bad for me, because I know if English is going for the Council Hall, I need to know probably about 3 minutes, so this is where I'm suddenly realising, oh no, I need to check because he's English. So I run up here, and I'm pretty sure I run over to his base rather than trying to cover all of this distance and see what he's aging up with, because obviously even when you can see a player that tends to do the same kind of thing, you can't really assume what they're going to do. So I wanted to first of all see if they had Abbey of Kings, and then I was going to see if he was on stone, because if he wasn't on stone then it could be a king fast castle, which is also pretty dangerous. So not sure why my scout's just sitting here at the moment, but I'm probably doing something else. There we go, finishing my age up, I guess. So I also aged up with 5 this time. I don't usually do that, but I thought getting up slightly earlier would mean that I can get my oil slightly earlier. So here we go. So I saw them mining the stone, so that must be the TC. Again, I'm not sure why my scout's just sitting there and not actually scouting the landmark, but there you go. I see the landmark there, and I was able to click it because I still can't recognise all of the landmarks when they're constructing like that. So I knew a king was going to be coming, and he aged up, and I know it takes a little while. I'm still not exactly sure how long that is. So actually, if we flip over to his view, then we can see the king comes out in 30 seconds. There we go. So normally I know when you hear that age up and you know it's the Abbey of Kings, you know you've got a little bit of time before it comes out, and then you've got a little bit of time before it comes over. So I went for the stables first because I wanted to try and either deny the TC, or I wanted to try and just put some pressure on or idle the TC because it's probably going to be on gold. Most English players who do the 2 TC thing put their second TC on gold. They've got the safe farms if they build them anyway, and then they just go to castle, get the white tower, and then basically their whole core base with 2 TCs is pretty well defended. So I was getting all the oil, so at this point you probably want to have your Merc House up, but I found in some recent ranked games that when I go for the Merc House early, I don't have either spears or I don't have horses that can do damage, and so here the king comes in and he might get a kill. No, good, I reacted quickly enough, which is always nice, and I pulled off the gold, so I managed to get 130, and I got a couple of researches in queue, so I was trying to get a couple of those just to boost my eco, and I'd noticed that the stone had already been finished, so they weren't mining it by the time my scout went there. So as my horses were running around onto the deer pack, I thought he might potentially go out to there. I could do that, and here he is pushing me off the berries as well. So I go for the Merc House, and then I'm hoping soon I'm going to have enough wood and then I can get some spears. But basically, someone advised me very recently to basically just ignore the king. This is really sloppy because I didn't change my rally point. So this one, unfortunately, that's the first one down. But even here, so I know now where the TC is, and I haven't scouted it yet, so this is, I think, a bit of a problem that I should have found it earlier, but seeing all of those pop out, then I knew. But my horse was already there on the gold waiting to do some damage. Not sure what my scout's doing over here, having a rest, but so they're idle, and this worked really nicely for me. So I had this stealth forest, and actually I never quite checked, but yeah, so he couldn't see the stealth forest anyway, but even if he was around, he wouldn't be able to do that. So that was quite nice. So I'm not sure why my scout's running past the TC now. I think that's obviously a mistake, because then the scout goes down. But I do have a stable, so I decided to build a new one from there in a minute, I'm pretty sure. And so I just moved all of my villagers onto my sheep and onto wood, and until I could get units to defend, because now the king can't really do anything while I can actually pressure his base a little bit. I also went for Expilatoris, because I just thought because I can see loads of villagers on this gold and I've got a load of horses, I thought being able to just even pick off 1 or 2 with that extra damage and potentially get some gold from it could be really good, because it gives you that slightly increased damage. So now if we don't know if it shows up on their stats, but +2 on a worker. So if you see, it just does that little bit more. So if all of those horses had running together, then I probably would have been able to get that one down. So as you can see, I went for the longbow contract, because they're really good for defending, and later on you can get the Landsknecht, which are really good against the men-at-arms, because you kind of need a counter for those against English as well. So now I got a couple of spears, I move back onto the berries, because I want to continue getting oil, because I've used up the bit I got early. Again, the king came in and got me here, which is a real shame, and I don't have that border settlements, which I really should have at this point. But he didn't notice when his king was microing that I've come in here and surrounded all of his villagers on gold, which worked really nicely for me. So at this point, I'm just massing up units, and I'm just trying to do as much damage as possible. So now trying to idle his farms, trying to idle the economy, and then if I do some damage, that's also fine. He's also done the same way. He hasn't rallied it, but he reacted more quickly there and didn't lose anything. And so now you can see my stream of units, and the king, I forced the king now to come back, and this is something I try to do when I can, is to do damage to the base, because then they come back. I've also targeted the scout, because that means they lose vision, and the king heals anyway, so, you know, there's no point focusing all of my energy on that, because he'll just run away like this and then he heals up anyway. So now I've got some longbows in the stealth forest, so I can now keep them off this gold, because they outrange the TC, which works really nicely. So I'm not sure why I went in for this fight. That seems really bad for me. I'm going to lose a couple of horses here, but there is a villager there that just walked out in front of me, so that works pretty well. So streaming all the units over now, because my base is pretty well defended. I put a little wall down here just so they can't circle around, and then if I need defending units I can chuck them here between the gold and the berries. I was floating a lot of wood, so as you can see here, I also ran out of sheep, so I decided to build as many groves as I could, go out onto the berries and shift over here to start working towards castle. I also got a blacksmith so I could get some upgrades, because if I've got all these units, I might as well do that. And this is exactly what I mentioned. So the TC, if we go to Tobias's vision, so his TC can shoot to here, the longbows actually can get them from there, so this is really nice. And he can't actually see my units, which I didn't realise at the time, but worked nicely, so I could just pull them back, and the longbows just then either hit the villagers, and either he loses villagers, or he or he takes damage. And so here again, I'm pushing in probably a bit too much, being a bit greedy of trying to get those kills rather than just idling, but because the horses do that little bit of extra damage, it works quite nicely. And I do have the spears here trying to catch the king if I can manage, and now I send off the horses into his eco just to idle that a little bit, because even if I don't get a kill there, it's probably worth it for idling, although that machine gun TC is really quite dangerous. You can see I went for the arrow damage first because I'm pushing onto the gold here, and I have a little scout sheep I didn't realise as well, which is quite fun. So when your scout dies, unless they get another scout to pick them up, you can actually move them around, and they give you a tiny bit of vision. But yeah, I went for the arrow damage because I'm pushing onto this gold and trying to get villager kills and stuff like that. It was better to do that, and then I went for siege engineering to try and take out the TC, which is probably a bit greedy, but you know, you got to give it a go, haven't you? So and here I've already got like 13 villager kills, so even on 2 TC I'm pretty much similar, and I knew I'd done a huge amount of damage. This is really bad. My spear never should have gone that far out, but my micro and my control groups are still in development, let's say, so I'm working on that. But if we go down here, I'm onto my third cistern, and I moved out onto the deer because I was pretty confident that he was stuck in his base, and if they raided, then I've also got the Arcatoid defense, so if the king came out here, this many villagers, if they can get us around, they can actually take the king out, which is quite nice. I did go for my upgrade, survival techniques, and then now I'm getting arrow defense. So obviously he's just gone castle, and so the white tower, there we go, I have actually seen it, so it's here. And I'll just pause it here for a second if the game will let me. So he's put it here, and actually when I played this, I thought this was actually really good for me. So this white tower defends like these farms and the TC slightly, but it doesn't really cover any further than the actual TC itself. So all of these farms out here are open because I can just stand on the edge here, and the TC here. So basically, if I put my longbows here, they can basically deny all the gold, and they can actually deny all of these farms, and even the villagers right up against the TC, you can still get those. So I'm not sure why it was on this side, because yeah, you can secure that wood, but actually if it had been, for example, here in the front, maybe he went there because obviously he didn't have any units and he knew I was on that side. But if it was somewhere closer to this side, he could have actually protected all of these farms and the TC. Maybe even here, that would have sort of stopped me all the way around this side, and then it would have been this side, which is open, which doesn't have as many resources. So not sure exactly why he went for that side, but I was pretty happy when I saw it go up there, because I knew if I could just deny the gold, there were no men-at-arms coming, there were no knights coming, stuff like that. So here, this one archer, there we go, so I moved them back. But now if you see like all of these, like 15 kills so far, I've lost a lot of horses, but actually the longbows have done the majority of the damage. And because I saw him age up, I started trying to get myself up to castle, so I've already got 7 on gold over here, and I'm going for the deer, and I've got horticulture coming in because that also buffs your oil income. So it's really, I tried to get that earlier, but I use my gold for other stuff. I do really need to work on my base building because this is very messy and all these houses are blocking potential production, but you know, when you're in a rush and you're trying to do lots of things, you can't always get those things perfect. And I still haven't got border settlements, which is really dumb because it gives you that extra vision. What I should be doing is putting my houses, for example, one over here, one at, like these ones here at the back, which I tried to do, which are also in range that shouldn't really be there, and then they give me loads of vision, so actually it's like having towers. Here I pulled some horses round to try and get to the base, so I think I did quite well here with the raids, or trying to at least use my horsemen basically to sort of surround around the base. But if you can see at the top, he has gold. Now, I didn't know this at the time, and if we have a look, he actually snuck out to the gold all the way over here, which I haven't scouted. So this is now where he can start getting knights and stuff like that, which as I'm aging up isn't particularly scary, because also my longbows can still do damage, but that's something I should have seen. So my vision here, if you see, I don't really have vision on my base. I also don't have vision on anything else apart from where my units are at the front, because I'm focused completely on this TC, because I think I've done a lot of damage, and if I take this TC down, then I'm economically in a really good spot, because one TC Byzantine with relics actually can keep up with 2 TC normally. So if I take the TC out, then I'm in a really good spot. But I am sending a couple of horses round to basically check the base, check the deer, trying to keep him trapped in here, because then if he's got to go to farms in here, like, they're getting caught in the fire, and I send their spears forward just to do some damage. And that villager number now is up to 27 and even a little bit more. So yes, I lost the spears because he's got some longbows, but I think this is really good for me. And while he's focusing on the front, I sort of poke with some horsemen around the back as well. So not really doing a huge amount of damage here, but even if it idles the wood and those farms, that's still pretty good for me. And I decide to pull back a bit now because I've just aged up, and he knows I've aged up. Potentially he could have lots of units because I don't have any vision on his base, so I got a little worried, and I thought it's better to pull back and regroup and then get some of my armoured units and stuff like that. I'm floating a lot of food, so this is where, yeah, there we go, I shift a lot of food villagers over onto gold so I can get my veteran contract, which I should have already got in queue. That's usually the first thing I do, and also then I can get some monks out to try and grab relics, because when they go in the winery, that's where the economy really goes off. So I'll switch over to this now, because I know when you're casting, everyone likes to see it this way. So far I think I've done quite a lot of damage, and I decided to group up here. I probably could have sent the horses around just on the external resources and done a bit of damage around there, but yeah, I was a bit nervous of those longbows coming in and potentially suddenly having maybe flashbacks to suddenly 30 longbows appearing and basically wiping out everything. And I was trying to keep all my units together, because when you look at this, 7 horsemen, 2 Limitanei and 16 longbows, that's a substantial amount. And actually I didn't know this, but it's actually way more than he's got, because he's just got tons of food and nothing to use it with. So these horsemen are going around here to guard the relic, which is up in this top corner, because I'm now getting my monks out to try and get those, as well as working on sort of upgrades and stuff like that. So even now I'm getting longbows because I'm almost half, so I can almost make one every 2 minutes, one batch. But now I have the veteran upgrade, these longbows are really, really chonky. And I'm still pushing on this front because he keeps, for some reason, going back onto the same gold, even though he has another gold secured. And so I could just do a huge amount of damage there, which is, you know, when I know there's a target like this that he keeps going back to, and I've scouted that he's still there, I just thought I might as well hit that place because it's going to do significant damage. I also had quite a lot of resources, so I decided to get a couple of cataphracts, and then if you went for siege, they have that trample ability, which is really, really nice, so you can charge through. So sometimes I don't actually go for springolds unless they have tons and tons of spears. I'll actually just get a couple of cataphracts, and you can basically charge through their units and then take out the siege that way. And then also they're just really strong for doing other stuff. Everything except raiding, basically. So here, this is, I think, going to be quite a good fight. He's got some longbows, some men-at-arms, which are obviously really strong, but the horsemen are there to take those on, and the longbows are in good enough numbers that they can do the horsemen. So now, if you see, the men-at-arms are down, and he's just got the longbows, and all my horsemen are still basically there, and I've got loads in queue. So my economy is doing okay. Now I'm floating loads of gold, so I think this is probably a problem. And fighting under 2 TCs and the White Tower is also very, very greedy. I don't need to do that. I think once I've done his units, I could just go around here and idle the farms, which would have been better. And I definitely should have been sending even just 1 or 2 horses just round onto the external resources, because, you know, like, if he did the same, I'm out on this gold and I'm on the berries and the deer. If one knight came down here, that would really ruin my day. But like this, he's still going back out onto the gold, which was really nice. So I kept scouting here because I really didn't want him to have access to this easy gold, although he's actually floating loads of gold, so I guess maybe he's a bit distracted by the fact that I'm pushing, but in terms of military, he's got 5, and 4 of those are those longbows that are half dead there. So now I've got all these units just massing up in the same place, and I've now re-rallied over here. So if we have a look, I've got 2 relics so far. There's my monk is going across, and I've got 2. This guy is just being really lazy, sitting there doing nothing, and that's something I really need to work on, is making sure he's getting the relics, because there's still 3 out there, or just going and getting sacred sites, because that's something really important. So he pushes forward now with a couple of these, which I think is a real mistake, because then it just sort of triggers me to say, hey, you're moving your units. And so then I decided to sort of push in a little bit and also get the villagers. And because he didn't really attack me, I decided to send the cataphracts in, because TC fire doesn't really do a huge amount of damage to them, so I basically just do that. And here he used the mangonel, and I was moving back anyway, and all I heard was the shot, and it missed. But now I know he's got those mangonels, then I can dodge them or try and do something, or try and dodge, shall I say. And you'll see that I've also got Sipahi coming in now. So the neutral post here had Sipahi, which I just thought would be better horsemen, and the arbitriers are pretty good, so I put them down there because they also get a buff to the production speed, so I just thought it was easier to do that from my wood line than going somewhere else. So here there's a big fight happening with all of these knights, and yeah, it went pretty well. So I'm losing a lot of units to the TC fire, and I never actually took the TC out. But if we look at the villager numbers, I'm actually ahead. So really, I think the thing I need to remember is it doesn't matter if I actually take the TC out, because as long as I've got more villagers, then if we look at the eco, so if I just pause it quickly here, the eco, I've got like 1,000, 500, 600, and he's got 400, 800, 100. So if you look at the overall, and if we don't include oil, because that's free, but again, that's basically free units, because now it's up to 1 batch of longbows a minute, plus the golden horn, which gives them to me for free. So if we go over to the golden horn, wherever I put it, there we go. So that gives me Sipahi now every minute, and with the Sipahi you get 3. So that's 3 Sipahi every minute for free, as well as either 5 longbows or 3 Sipahi or 3 Landsknecht. So it's really a significant amount of units, which is how I'm managing to keep doing this, even when I'm floating 2,000 gold, which is really dumb. I did also put some on stone, because I wanted to get up to level 5 cistern, and then potentially maybe drop a keep somewhere on the sacred sites, which I still never got, which is terrible. And at this point he's not contesting them, and I've still only got 2.5 relics, if you count the one that I'm still taking home. So if we have a look at the map, the where are the other ones, because it doesn't actually show up now with the vision. So there should be one around here somewhere, which I can't see, but I did send a cataphract round to go and sort of push him off some of the resources. They're very, very slow, but very, very sort of sturdy. I probably should have done that with some horsemen instead, but you know, so I think still at this point the vision is still a really big problem for me, because I actually don't see anything. Although I'm sort of being the aggressor, I didn't see any of these units. So actually, if he'd have scouted me, and so I tried to dodge. Did I dodge? No. So see that huge damage there, that was terrible. But the horseman just went straight in and got rid of that mangonel, and now there's literally nothing that's going to stop me. Villagers getting taken out, and I was just able to focus down all these knights, and he called it. So overall, I think I did pretty good aggression. My scouting was pretty terrible, and my vision on my base was pretty terrible. That definitely could have been better, but I definitely find being more aggressive like this against English, especially when they go King 2 TC, and maybe ignoring the king and just focusing on horses to come and do damage to their base, is really a good way to play it. So that's the end of the first match. Best of 1 to me, and then we'll be on to the next one. So I'll see you there to review game number 2.